Hey, what's up, you guys? So, a lot of people are not a little, are very heavy right now with thoughts about their safety, thoughts about safe spaces and where we can go out of all the limited spaces we experience already in our daily lives and a limited amount of space we have to be authentic 100% of the time, unless we are people who have our own careers, essentially. Um, I've decided to go live at this moment because I have a lot of thoughts and I'm tired of them simply circulating around in my mind, and I'm tired of constantly trying to write them down, and I'm also tired of constantly trying to plan ways to allow these thoughts to come out. So I said, just go live and just do it and get it done. Um so I actually started this because I was traveling to the Philadelphia Trans Health Conference, which took place from the 9th to the 11th. I stayed to the 12th, which was Sunday. Excuse me, let me make sure I'm correct on that. Yes, I was. That's correct. So I traveled, and of course, regardless of where I am, I mean, even in my own home, in my own body, no matter how isolated, how far away from people, I'm always thinking about my health. I'm always thinking, and I'm always concerned about my safety. Any space that I go into, I'm looking for the exits. I'm thinking, who can I finesse to get out of this room faster? Not to say that I would sacrifice somebody, but just saying, who or what obstacles are there around me that are likely to get in my way? And if one plan fails, what's my next one? And I'm thinking, okay, how quickly can I put my phone on silent in case I need to do that? Or how can I use my phone as a distraction? I'm always creating escape routes. And whether or not they'll actually work, I don't know. But my safety is always a number one concern, no matter what. And that's even if I'm in groups, in large numbers of people who are like-minded and simply just want to be, themselves in a world that is extremely afraid of that. But it's always begging for a revolution, always begging for innovation, but shits on the creators, shits on the people who move the energy, which changes the way that they speak and changes the way that they dress and express themselves, and the way that they love and accept love, and the way they show up in the world. The world is so oppressive, yet at the same time always asking for more. It's tiring when a lot of the world's resources are created by the very people it shits on: people of color, people of low status, social status, people of little wealth, people who are queer, people who are transgender, people who transcend any of these meanings. The world shits on these people, but yet these are the very people who make the world turn. So, all that being said, though, I was traveling to Philadelphia and I'm on the bus, and it's so, I don't know, I don't like this word, but it's so coincidental that as I was riding on the bus, on my way home, actually, on Sunday, and this is before I knew of the events in Orlando, at 2 o'clock on Sunday, I was just, excuse me. I was just on Sunday. I was just on my way. 2 o'clock in the morning. I was just on my way back to the house that I was staying at in Philadelphia, because my bus had come, not the bus, but the trolley had come over an hour late, and it's just weird how that happened. But I was walking home in a strange city I knew nothing about, and I felt vulnerable. But I kept walking. I'm riding on the bus home at 12 noon, and I get in the car with my father, and he tells me, can you read the article? What do you know about it? Have you heard about it? I hadn't heard anything about it. No one I knew was talking about it. I wasn't on Facebook. I wasn't on any of my social media, so I really had no idea that it had happened. But it was just interesting that on the bus ride home, before I actually had made it to the vehicle with my father, I was sitting on Megabus. I was in the back seat with two and then three other guys who were back there. It's like a four-seater in the back, but it was three of us. And all of us brown and appeared to be queer. I don't know, but there was that vibe, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm at the back of the bus and I'm looking and I see, basically a sea of white. And there's clearly, some people who are obviously queer, but it was pretty much, like young, 25 to middle age, presumably cis hetero white people on this bus. And just being honest, the demographic of perpetuators of mass violence are white. A lot of them, most of them, are white who commit mass shootings in the United States are white. And it just, for some reason, this thought just came to my mind. I said, yo, what if one of these little boys, one of these young guys, because they're mostly white men, what if one of these young guys has a gun? What if one of these young guys, ups and decides he wants to try and harm everyone on this bus because he's experiencing something in his life that he can't deal with? It's not that somebody offended him personally and he decided to go and shoot that person. A lot of these mass killings, a lot of those personal feelings turn into mass killings, but there are over 355 of them in the United States. I think in just 2015 or 16, I might be incorrect on the year, but just within a short amount of time, there's been over 355 mass shootings perpetuated almost entirely by white men. As a person of color, and I can't hide that, as a queer person, I choose not to hide that, as a transgender person, as a person assigned female at birth, as a person of a certain level of masculinity, and so too at times as a certain level of perceived femininity and perceived masculinity, I'm not safe. And I think about this all the time. And when I think, as a person of color, the people who have been the most violent towards me have been either white men or people who perpetuate the ideology of the patriarchal society, which centers cisgender, heterosexual, monosexual, able-bodied whiteness and maleness. So ever since I was born, I've never felt safe in my body. And being in these spaces where the people who have perpetuated the most violence against me historically, I'm not just saying in my body here, I'm also saying through laws and legislations. I'm also saying through systemic patterns. I'm also saying through categorization. I'm also saying through the media. I'm saying in so many ways, my enemy has been the cisgender heterosexual white male, whether or not I've been able to look him in his eyes or to be in the room when he's enacting this violence. That is primarily and first, for most of all, my enemy. So like Muhammad Ali said, about them trying to propagate violence against Vietnam during those times when the war was happening and when they were, they wanted to have, he's supposed to be recruited. He said, ain't no Viet Cong called me nigga. And that's just basically saying, like, my enemy is not who you're saying it is. They're not my political enemy. They're not the ones who are trying to oppress me. They're not the ones who try and take food off my table every day. They're not the ones who try and demonize me every day. You are. You right here in this country are the ones that I have to determine as my enemy. Or else I'm not safe. If I want to sit here and act like you're my friend, you're not. You've never been. And that goes for those who are ignorant of their place, ignorant of their privilege, ignorant of what they are capable of doing. And I find it even more so harmful when you don't know your power, when you don't know, when you swing, how much power you're wielding and how much you are affecting the environment around you. When you don't know your power, you are that much more dangerous. Sometimes even more so than someone who is being intentional. So I didn't get to the point, but I'm sitting on this bus and I'm looking over at the young white guys on the bus and I'm thinking, my gosh, if this guy is having some type of tormented feelings in himself, there's a likelihood that he might have purchased a gun and is traveling on this bus with the intentions of killing all of us, taking us hostage, torturing us, and then killing himself. That's a hell of a stress to be carrying when you just came from this conference that has hundreds of transgender people in one building. A part of me for years, even though I'd known about the conference, I was hesitant to go because of that reason. Because it's like killing roaches. If you know where they are nestled at, you go there. And even talking about this, saying that makes me nervous. I don't want people who aren't in the in crowd to know about these spaces because of the threat of violence, because of that threat to our safety, because of that lack of preparedness we'll have because we are in a space that we consider to be that of our own. So I'm sitting on the bus, I'm looking over at all the young white guys, and I'm thinking, instinctually, I think, yo, if something happens, or if he even seems like he wants to have a problem, I will probably know in my nerve, if I'm gonna die being scared, I would rather die trying to come at you. And of course, that's just that thinking of when you're not really in the situation, you'll think and say anything about what you would do, but what's the reality, right? But that's my thing. That's been my level of thinking, and I've been having that kind of approach even in confrontations with people where they come at me, they say something, I don't back down from them. I challenge them, or I stand my ground and I just look at them. And I know my parents have always warned me that I'm subjecting myself to violence, but living as an authentic person is an act of resistance in itself. I cannot punk out at the smallest part of what really scares me. What scares me more is not being authentic. What scares me is dying and saying, I lived all my life afraid to have to fight. I lived all my life afraid to be authentic and to show up as myself because of the fear of what might happen. That's what I'm most afraid of. Next to actually experiencing that violence and having my life ended, or being tortured, being kidnapped, or being stalked and harassed because of authenticity, because of the inability of the patriarchal system to include space for people who are not this particular model of person or in this way of being. So again, 20 minutes later, I'm on this bus and I'm looking at the white guys and I said, I will probably go up to him and smack him upside his fucking head. And I mean, for people who are black, I mean, not all of us had those kind of mamas, but we knew that she could get real quick, where you ain't try your mama and she ain't never had to beat your ass. She ain't never had to beat your ass because you knew better. You might have seen her argue with other people. You might have heard about stories about her, or you might have seen her, challenge people that you're like, yo, you just challenged the motherfucking police as a black woman. I ain't fucking with you as a child. I ain't ever, and you just get this thing in your mind. You're like, I will never fuck with my mother because I've seen her do this, this, and that. You know what I'm saying? So that just occurred. I was just like that. That's who I became in my mind. I'm like, yo, if something happened, I'm gonna become black mama on you. I'm gonna smack the shit out of your ass and say, what the fuck wrong with you, boy? Excuse my language, but just being real, that's what came to mind. I'm like, if I ever seen, someone angsty little boy, and I am saying, even though you're 25, I'm calling you a little boy, I smack you inside your head. Now if you have an assault rifle, that's a different story. But that's just what came to mind. That just saying that if the situation played out in my head the way it was, where he's clearly giving signs that he's having some issue himself. Like my first instinct was to walk up to. I was looking at a particular person to walk up to him, punch him upside his damn head, and ask him what the hell is wrong with you. Do you need a hug? Do you need to get your life? And understanding that sometimes that kind of violence comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of knowing you've been in that place sometimes, and you've sometimes had to smack your damn self, like, yo, wake up, snap up out of it, And it's just weird to me that I had that thought while riding home from this event and not knowing there was a mass shooting of someone who had an inability to deal with themselves, or whatever the case may have been, who went and killed many, 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 many people because of whatever they were experiencing. Dang. And it just, from that point, I started to develop other thoughts because I started to go over in my mind visually all the articles and titles I'd seen, over the years of these extremist politicians who are like all across the board, no to gay rights, no to women's rights, no to this, no to that. And then these people come out the closet, they're forced out the closet, you know, their shit hits the fan. They're found in bathrooms having sex with men. They're found having sex with prostitutes. They're found doing all the things that they have voted against, essentially. And I thought, wow, that to me just says that sometimes our biggest enemy isn't someone who doesn't look like us, who doesn't walk the same walk as us. Sometimes it's someone who does the exact same things as us, who knows us all too well because he too is that himself. And I thought sometimes our biggest enemy is ourselves. What are we capable of when we are living in a prison of oppression? When we are living in a prison of fear, when we are unable to accept, embrace, and love ourselves, and to share ourselves openly with others, when we think the consequences of authenticity are far too great to sustain than just exposing ourselves to whatever might be out there should we choose authenticity. Because when you choose authenticity, when you choose acceptance of yourself, there's almost no control over what happens. There's a lot that comes to you that you can't plan on, that you can't account for. And I found that when you are in control of yourself, when you are repressing things, it's far more easy to control the outcome. You know what to expect, especially when you're creating the system which creates the outcome. So you're creating a program to say, well, I don't want to have to go this way. I don't want to have to see that because that might mean I'm going to just bust out, and I don't want to have that. So I'm going to create the game. I'm going to fix the program to not ever allow me to be in that space, so it doesn't have to be acknowledged. I never have to stare my reflection in the eye, basically making the game to never have any mirrors or reflective surfaces. You know what I'm saying? And when you do that, you have a lot of control. But when you are authentic and you just let things come to you, you allow yourself to be, you get inspiration. You do things that you didn't plan for. You inspire people in ways you never accounted for, and it's just amazing to me that instead of risking that experience, it's not amazing to me because I understand it. I mean, there's still multiple levels of repression that I still exist in, that I am recognizing but not yet confronting because I don't think I'm ready. But I've noticed that in my repressions, I've done things to people. I've been dishonest. I've created environments with people that now that I've unlocked myself in a lot of ways, I no longer wish to share that space because it's dishonest, it's untrue, it's inauthentic, it's harmful. When you make choices about yourself which are not reflective of who you truly are, and you invite other people into that space with you, you're being harmful because you are leading them down a path that you're not truly on, and one that you're not actually going to continue to follow, and you're misleading the people. And when you have such a power to where you can change legislation, when you can change the outcome of other people's lives, when you change the access that they have to resources, when you change the nature of the political breeding ground, when you change the environment to meet you and your repressions, you're making other people become the casualty, not just yourself. Because when you realize the more you open up, the more you allow yourself to be inspired, the more you shine your actual and true light, the more other people begin to awaken in that same awareness. Now, we all have the power to open up and make others aware in the same way that we are. Regardless of what we're doing, we can always move someone to do something, anything, if we so choose to open our mouths. But I think it becomes a discussion of power. What are you lending your power to when you live in repression and when you try and create that environment for other people? So I'm going to ask this question again tonight, but I'm here right now because the thought is on my mind. Diamond Styles took to Twitter and asked the question. She asked the question. Where is it? Okay. So how does this affect you all's mind about going to pride events, conferences, and clubs now that this has happened? And I responded via the Trans World Live Twitter that it only makes me just a bit more antsy, a bit more anxious. And I only say a bit more because the anxiety is already great. And the more we gain support and traction, the more we gain public spaces, the more fearful I actually become in these spaces. Like, I'm glad for them because it's progress. But at the same time, it's kind of a culture shock to people who don't want things to change, who don't want to see different representations, for people who don't want to share a space, knowingly with those that they would rather oppress. And so I also wrote, going outside every day as myself is a pride event in and of itself. I don't need a rainbow float coming down the street for me to be noticeable, for me to be acknowledged as fluid, to be acknowledged as comfortable in myself, to be acknowledged as whatever it is that I am. I don't need pride to take up space in that way. You know what I'm saying? Pride to me is more so a communal recognition, like, hey, I'm here too. Hey, like looking across the room and everybody give each other that look. It's just kind of like holding up a flag and say, yo, we here. It's not even really about everybody else who's not in on that. It's just really to say to each other, yo, we here. We support one another, and this is what we're doing to show that. So we're gonna put on events for our enjoyment. We're gonna put on events so we can network and meet one another, and so we can, not be ashamed publicly to share a space. But just walking outside is one of those events itself, and I'm going to allow this conversation to become fluid. And if anyone watching this so chooses to comment, then please, you are welcome to. Speaking of pride and being out and being noticed and being acknowledged and the fear of threatened violence, there's two things actually. One was about film safety, and this is something that's becoming more and more relevant as I confront it, because anyone who's known me very personally, such as my best friend, my film best friend, Laura, or anyone who's dated me within the last few years, probably since like 2011, 2012, when my dreads got to a certain length and I started feeling myself. I was there for it. I was, really into myself, and as physically masculine as I was very feminine in my personal space. And the reason I was extremely feminine only in person, like really personal spaces, was because of the fear of shaming, the fear of complicating other people's perception of me, the fear of being ostracized, the fear of being locked out of certain spaces, the fear of being discredited as being who I am, to be thought of as less powerful, to be thought of as less honest and truthful about who I am and who I have been. Because a lot of people that I've shared spaces with have a difficulty recognizing dualities and wholeness. They have a difficulty recognizing polarities and recognizing differing levels of balance, and in recognizing that as a person, I choose to go through certain changes. And when I say I choose to, it's not to say that it's not natural. They're very natural, but the choice comes into accepting that I have these experiences, accepting that, hey, sometimes I want to go like this, and so I do it. It's a choice. It is a choice. But the thing is, the desire is there. I choose to embrace it and to express that. So I just did not want to expose myself to more and more ridicule. And anyone who's been watching me has known me to say that various points in my transition. When I first started on my transitional journey at 18 years old, I say the same thing. Like, I didn't want to come out as trans, although I was aware at the age of 15. I didn't want to come out. Well, I was aware long before that. So I didn't want to come out, period, because of the fact that I didn't want to bring upon more oppression. I didn't want to make the conditions more difficult for myself. And this especially being said when I'm around people who say things like, yeah, it's cool to be gay, but why you got to be feminine? Like, why you got to be so flamboyant? Like, why? Like, okay, I get it, you're gay. Or, okay, I get it, it's cool, be gay, but why you got to be like that? And to me, that's like, even though I am not at that time or in that space or have ever been that version of femininity around them, because I hear them say things like that, I think, okay, I'm not going to share that with you because it's not safe. Because it's literally a prolonged stress in environment, stressing environment, to constantly be exposed to that attitude in personal spaces. It's one thing to hear lawmakers say that, to hear people outside your chosen communities to say that, like the guys at the liquor store, I don't commune with them, so I don't give a fuck what they got to say for the most part. But when you hear that in your personal circles, your family, your friends, it has a different type of relevance. And I just kind of silently suffered those experiences. So while they would be criticizing and looking at people outside in the world a particular way, but not knowing I was that same way, I suffered along with that person to have that type of experience. And I didn't have a voice to say, hey, I navigate that too. I am feminine. And so I really just closeted myself to only be open with a very distinct few set of people. But anyone who's personally known me has known that I'm cunt as hell. And it's almost kind of shameful how I've not really expressed that. But speaking to the experience of fem safety, and really, actually confronting it and not shying away from it by not wearing what I want to wear. Anyone who's seen that series of What I Wanted to Wear, which kind of centers, I think, queer voices and gender nonconforming people, where they show pictures of the acceptable version of their outfits or the calmed down version of their outfits and for their safety and for their comfort around other people versus what they actually wanted to wear, and read some of the dialogue and engaged in some of the discussions, that shit is real. Where you can be fucking hurt for wearing a particular fucking outfit, for wearing a particular color that has no gang association. It amazes me that humans, the psychology of humans is so complex. It is so highly rated. It's so exalted. It is so capable. And yet it is so fucking basic that someone can be offended in their value and their worth based on what you do with yourself. Like, that's like you go in the bathroom and masturbate in your own house. And I, for some reason, have this huge problem where I have to be political and about what you do in the privacy of your own home or in the privacy of yourself. How can the complexity of a human mind be so basic? And that oftentimes is how I kind of sympathize with people who expose themselves as containing hatred towards people like myself and people who are just colorful all around. Because I don't not actually like dissect people for the most part. I don't really challenge them. I don't confront them. I just ask them, why do you think like that? Like, talk to me. Like, tell me more about your perspective. And I want to understand it. Like, why do you hate me? You don't even know me. Why do you hate me? And a lot of times the people just realize, yo, because they've been lied to. Somebody told them something about themselves, or somebody told them something about the world around them, and they accepted it because they never had an experience which challenged. But not only did they not have experiences that challenged their thinking, which was given to them oftentimes, but because of the nature of the mind, that once you put a framework within it, it's going to continue to look for systems and ideas and experiences which support it. So even if you did have an experience which could have challenged what you thought in your mind, if you're extremely set on those values and those understandings, it's almost impossible for some people to change their thinking. So even if someone, a person of color, say a racist, so even if a person of color helped them, there's, for some people, the way their mind is set up, they're still going to think less of that person of color, even though that person saved their life. And these are some of these people you can't help. But for the most part, a lot of people are of average intelligence. A lot of these people can be assisted in their thinking, and really it's just to show them where in themselves they are lacking awareness. And it's not, I'm not saying where in themselves they're lacking awareness of others. I'm saying where in themselves are they lacking awareness of the misalignment of their thinking. So going back to what I was trying to initially engage in, this conversation about fem safety, now that I've begun to navigate that publicly, more openly, and to actually take up space and use fem energy and to use fem imaging, and bodily movements and so on and so forth, I find myself in kind of navigating the world differently, where all of the fears that I was silently dealing with, I now have to live with and confront them. And every time I step out the house in an obviously feminine manner as a trans man, I'm going to add the trans part because that is important, because the way that our society relates to every intersection is different. And as a trans man, there's this perception that you're supposed to want to be a particular type of man. Well, if you want to be a man, then you must want to be this certain model. And there was someone at PTAC who hosted a workshop where they mentioned their therapist, a cis hetero white man, said to them, I don't take you seriously that you actually consider yourself to be a man because your legs are crossed. Meanwhile, that same therapist who said those words was sitting there with their legs crossed. I personally, when I started my transition and I went to a therapist, the first one stole my money. When I went to the second one, it was a cisgender heterosexual white man. He said to me that my appearance was too feminine, and so I need to be more masculine, butch it up a little bit if I wanted people to take me seriously as a man. Or if you want people to perceive you as a man, you should change your appearance. And I thought, first of all, I'm from PG County. I hate putting it out there, but I am. I'm from PG County. It was at the time where it was just becoming popular to wear fitting clothing. So to wear a shirt that actually fits you, to wear jeans that were not baggy. And I had on some square frame glasses. They weren't really big, but they were small for my face, I guess. And he said it to me, and I looked at him. I was like, do you know where I'm from? I'm from the county of pretty boys and pretty girls. This is how we look. This is what we do. And not taking into consideration the cultural differences is what he wasn't doing. But on top of that, it was just the idea that because I'm not just assigned male at birth, but because I'm transitioning, I'm supposed to perpetuate maleness in a particular way. And so to step out the house and to be bearded, but to have breasts, which are natural, to step out and to be read is so many different things in one context. It just makes me feel extremely unsafe the more I become confident, but that being said and everything, I'm way off topic, but what I wanted to talk about, which I'm going to talk about later on with this actual person with whom it occurred, was the lack of safety that femme people experience in public spaces and the amount of threat that exists in the world. And I keep using this example, and I apologize if it offends anybody with whom it actually affects. And I don't mention this example as a tact of disregard or minimalization, because I am taking strides to educating myself on these matters. But what I tell people is you can't say that something is or is not occurring in someone else's life. First of all, you're not in their shoes. You don't have their perspective. You don't share their experiences. People don't, the environment doesn't interact with you in the same way that it does with this other person. You know, like it's like a bird saying to the snake, no, that doesn't happen because I don't see it. Motherfucker, you got a bird's eye view. I'm on the ground. You know what I'm saying? And the snake can't say, conversely say to the bird, oh, that experience isn't real because I don't experience that. We're in two different places. We have in a completely different environment which we are navigating, and that's how it is for people with disabilities, people with different skin tones, with people of different ethnicities, of different cultures, of different backgrounds. People who are immigrants have a different experience as Americans than, say, someone who was a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, however long generation American person. And so especially for masculine people or for male people to say to a femme person, oh, it's just you, or that's not real, that's not happening, you don't have the fucking perspective to say what is or is not occurring in this person's life. You don't have the perspective to say what is real or is not. And what happened was we were walking away from the conference in Philly, probably I think on a Saturday. We were walking away and I was with two feminine people, and one of them, there was a guy standing at the corner, and this was away from like the gay area where all the gay festivities were happening. So he was presumably a straight man, a straight black man. And he's probably, I don't know, just under, probably like 5'9", 5'10". I don't know how tall he was, but he was probably in somewhere in that height area. And all of us walking were within like 5'6" and 5'7". It was three of us. You know, so we're kind of short. I'm little. I'm like 130 something pounds. I'm little as shit. The films I'm with are little as shit. And he grabs one of their arms. He actually grabbed the arm of the woman I was walking with, like right next to. And he grabbed the arm and was like, yo, I just want to talk to you, Shawty. I just want to talk. I just want to holler at you. You know, he doing all this and that. And it took me about a split second, but I said, I had to do it. And I had to put on the voice, and I'm just like, yo, bro, yo, she with me, man. Get your hands off her, man. I'm with her. She mine. And he's like, yo, so he let her go, and he turns around. He's like, yo, she fine as shit. She fine as shit. I said, yeah, I know. You know, I'm trying to like project this image of masculinity, like, girl, this is mine, girl. I'm your protector. And it was kind of strange for me. I've been doing it for a long time, even as a fucking bush lesbian. Just even being raised as masculine in any sense is this thing that protects you. It's this thing that makes other people say, oh, okay, I need to back off. You know, they're fucking territorial, so they act like fucking animals. And they're like, oh, here's another male presence. Let me back away because it might amount to a challenge. I don't necessarily want to take on the threat. Not that I could have read as much a threat to this person who was way bigger than me, but maybe he's had some experiences. I don't know. But that's all 130 pounds, 5'6" of me in a tank top with my breast showing. You know, I wasn't binding. It was hot, so I'm just walking around the tank top in just a sports bra. So you can't see my chest if you would look. And I don't think he looked. So I just grabbed him, was, you know, like, yo, dude, that's mine, blah, blah, blah. And I'm, you know, as we're walking down the block, I'm still putting on his show, put my arm around her. And I started to feel like it was making her uncomfortable, and I didn't really mean to. But, you know, she went on to say, you know, she held herself and went on to say, like, yo, I get so tired of that. And it would have been worse had you not been here to do that. And at the same time, as she's saying that, I'm also thinking, I'm only 5'6", 130 pounds. I'm not really into fighting, so I don't really know what my skill level is. And I'm thinking, when is it ever thought or considered that I might need protection? Because as a masculine person, I have been fought. I have been attacked for being read as queer. I have been attacked for being a lesbian. I have been attacked for being a masculine presenting person who does not fit inside a norm. I have been attacked for other people's inability to read me the way that they think that I should be able to be read. And it's just occurred to me, even within relationships where there's this personal attack against me, or there's things being done to me and they discount the amount of how harmful it can be because of the fact that I was centered in a physical appearance of masculinity. And again, this is as a lesbian, this is as a male identified person, and even again as a genderqueer identified person, where because I look like I am embracing wholly of the binary of masculinity, that they had to perpetuate certain ideals against me. And this is even in relationships with other queer people, and other trans people, where it's just like they uphold those systems too. And I'm sitting here fighting within my relationship to be recognized, to say that, because I don't like to fight, I don't like I don't like confrontation. If I just come to you calmly and say, this is a concern, take this into consideration, and you continue to abuse me. It's abusive when I tell you that it's a problem and you continue to do it. That is abuse. And for me to say, this is a boundary, this is a limit, this is a trigger, and you use my masculinity against me to say, oh, it doesn't hurt you that much because you're a man. And I'm not even whole as identifying as a man at this point. I'm just saying I'm a fucking human being. Sometimes I feel like this, sometimes I feel like that. I'm a person. Acknowledge me as Xavier. And your whole ass saying to me, well, because you're a man, you should be able to take that. Or because you're a man, it's different for you. And I'm sitting here like, what the fuck does my maleness or masculinity have to do with my fucking feelings? What does that have to do with what I'm literally telling you is the truth about me, that you're doing something and it hurts? So I've had to defend and protect myself, not just from public spaces, but even more so in private spaces with people who internalize these ideas about masculinity and femininity. And so they become prejudiced and they do things to me and they trigger me. And when they get a certain response, and, you know, I can sit here and cry and cry and cry and scream, and they like, oh shit, you're losing your mind. But the moment I raise my voice, and because the fact that my crying and my speaking calmly and my asking for your fucking consideration is not working, then I turn on the use of masculinity and masculine energy. Then I turn on the use of my body as an imposing force to say stop. And this is a polite stop, okay? My real stop is a hell no. You don't want to hear that. When I get to that point of having to literally use my physical body to get you to understand something, we've already failed long before that, because you've already dragged me to a point because I don't like to use masculinity in that way, because I understand how harmful. I have been a femme identified person based on my body. Okay, I've been in a position of powerlessness, of not being recognized. I've been in that position of people laying their weight on me because I'm a fucking femme person based on the structure of my body. I've been in that place to know what masculinity in a harmful manner can look like. I've seen it. I've lived through it. I've had men attack me. I've had women attack me. Okay, so I don't like to physically impose. I don't. It's not in my nature. I am a harmonizer. I like to seek balance. I like to seek beauty. I like to seek creation. But for me to have to get to a place where I have to do all this and, you know, make myself bigger in a space and be boisterous and to be wild, to fight you physically, that means spiritually, I've already wrestled with you. And you have been defeating me in so many ways, because you have not recognized the limits to my power. You have not recognized the amount of space that I'm needing, because you have not recognized me when I come to you calmly and give you the fucking guidelines to say what I need and how you can help and how I can help you help me. When you get to a point where you're triggering me and I say, yo, that's a trigger. And we actually get to a point in a conversation or something where it's touching on that trigger. And I'm saying, yo, I'm a little sensitive. Give me like 5 minutes. And you say no. That to me tells me you don't give a fuck about me. I don't care if it's because I'm masculine. I don't care if it's because I look a certain way to you or because I'm centered in a particular identity. When we get to the point that I have to physically do things, it's already done for. We're already done. And I've struggled for so many years with the fact that I have used physical balance in 2 relationships with femme people. I've struggled for so many years accepting that I've not always been a helpful person, that I have at times been harmful. In my mind, what I say and what I think to be true, but I don't want to be biased towards myself, my own experience, my own considerations. And that and it's gotten to the point where I've made excuses for the harmfulness that other people have brought to me, where I can't just say I did that because they hurt me over and over and over again. It's not a matter of you hurt me one time, two times, three times. It's a matter of the fact that you kept hurting me. You continue to hurt me. And you continue to manipulate me, because the thing is, people say, well, why didn't you leave? Well, because oftentimes when you tell somebody who's faking the funk like they love you, they'll start to make changes. They will literally show you progress. They'll start to make considerations. But the moment it gets too hot, it gets too heavy, that's when their true character shows, and they just say, fuck it. I don't care what you want from me. I don't care what you need. I don't care that this is triggering for you. I'm going to do what I want because that's just what I want. And that's when it comes out. And that's when you had a realization, yo, for the last 3 months, you just been bullshitting me. But for those 3 months before that moment, they're really convincing you. They're buying you gifts. They're talking to you so sweetly. They holding you when you go to sleep at night. They there when you wake up in the morning. They fixing you dinners. They're buying you food. So it's not just a matter of somebody treated you wrong and it's so clear that this is just who they are as a person. Because no, everybody makes mistakes. And I can be a very forgiving person. Because I know in my states of unawareness, at times I've done things, but it takes somebody making me aware. So if I've done something, let me know. And I promise you to God, I swear to God, I'm going to do everything I can to learn. I'm going to read blog posts from people who have the similar experience for you, where you say this is something I'm doing. I'm reading about those experiences from those other people who have been victimized in that way. I'm going to fucking read psychology articles. I'm going to learn about the perpetuation of victimization. I'm gonna read about the pathology of people who do this stuff. I'm gonna read the fuck about this shit. I'm gonna write about it. I'm gonna learn about it. I'm gonna be about it. I'm gonna do everything I can in my power. But at the same time, if I know that I am at a capacity where I can't make that consideration for you, I'm gonna tell you that too. And I'm gonna give you the option, yo, because I know that I'm only going to continue to be harmful to you, you have a choice to let me go. And I would not be resentful to you. You have a choice to let me go, because I know that I'm only going to continue to be harmful to you. I know that I don't want to make the effort. I know that I don't want to try. I know that I don't want to make these changes, because maybe it goes against some type of value or ideal that I hold for myself, that I can't compromise on that I can't make that change. I'm going to do my best to be very 100% clear with you that that's what it is. I'm going to give you the choice. But at the same time, if it's something that I can do, I'm going to do my fucking best. But unfortunately, I've had some people say to me, yo, oh, you need that? Oh, well, I can't do it. But then at the same time, any little thing they do, I did this for you. I did that. I'm complaining, I know. But that's just speaking from a perspective of someone who's been endeared with masculinity after the transition. It's so real that even in queer spaces, even with trans people, you know, they can really perpetuate a lot of these harmful mentalities and these pathologies. And it's something that as a trans male, a trans masculine person, I don't like to say that, whatever, but it's just something that we don't really get to hold the mic to talk about a lot. And so, yeah, that whole event with my friend who has agreed to have a live or to have a recorded conversation with me about those experiences, I just thought, I was thinking on the flip side about, yo, what about my safety? Because I've often had to tell my partners, like, yo, you might see me as this strong person, you might see me as capable, but here are my limits. I have certain things that physically, sometimes I am not capable. Sometimes having difficulty talking about this because it makes me emotional every time I experience it. But sometimes there are some days I wake up and I literally can't close my hands. I can't open a soda. There are times when I can barely carry my bodily weight. There's just different things about me that need to be taken into consideration, and you can't think of me all across the board as this strong thing because I have this big confident personality, or because I exude confidence in such a way that it makes you feel good about yourself. Like, no, I still have different disabilities. I have limits. I have stuff that you need to also take into consideration in your awareness of me. So when we are in physical spaces, I'm just as worried about my safety as you are. But at the same time, I know that I have privilege that comes with the way people read me, based on facial hair, based on voice, based on masculinization. So I'm going to use that, but please take into consideration me as well. I'm scared to put myself out there for you. I'm scared that I hold this particular power simply based on what I look like, the way that people are reading me. I've been attacked by a man who said, well, you want to act like a nigga? Well, I'm going to beat your ass like a nigga. I didn't know it was customary for niggas just to get their asses beat for being niggas. Just for being a man. I didn't know that was something that was a type of violence that men were subjected to. That you woke up a man today, well, you getting your ass beat because you a man. I didn't know that was a fucking experience, but apparently because I've embodied masculinity naturally, or because I trained myself to, or because I'm presenting myself in a way for somebody else's comfort, I didn't know that made me capable of being subjected to that type of physical intimidation and violence. I didn't know. I didn't know masculinity came with random bouts of violence. I didn't know that, just standing outside, somebody don't like the way you look. Oh, you a man, so I'm gonna beat your ass because I don't like the way you look. I didn't know that we just entered into fucking Mortal Kombat fights because you a fucking dude today. I didn't know that. I've been attacked again as a lesbian, as a trans. I've been attacked, okay? So just as much as you are afraid of having things happen to you, I am too, because of experience, because of socialization, because of the fact that I don't know my strengths. And honestly, I've lost a lot of strength since going off of testosterone. So that kind of scares me even more. Because whereas on T, I knew I could at least struggle with a dude. So along with my appearance came this strength. But now I have this appearance and no strength to go with it. And I feel vulnerable. So while I might be able to put myself out there and use my physicality in a certain way, I'm just as afraid of being harmed as anyone else, I told you in the beginning of this video, there was no distinct direction. It was just a series of thoughts that I need to put out there because I wish for these experiences and thoughts to be acknowledged. So, yeah, just reminding you, because I'm reminding myself. I'm kind of judging myself for not having an itinerary for this video, but it needs to be what it needs to be. I'm wearing this heck because my hair is a mess. Hello. Welcome. How are you? I'm powerful. This needs to be a reminder, thing. It needs to be customary to remind myself that I am powerful. And it doesn't come all the time in how I occupy physical space. It's not even always about my intellectualism. It's not always about my emotional intelligence. It's simply because I am. So we're centering this back on a conversation about Orlando. What I hope to accomplish, or what I hope to see happen in this live chat tonight, is for us to not feel like our power has been taken away. I know in some ways it has been, and to especially be informed that this is someone who is also of the queer community who feared something to where he had to respond in such a way. And it makes us have to question, who are our biggest enemies and what can be our biggest help? What in myself can I do to lessen the stress that people who are in the closet, are experiencing? What can I do to lessen the stress that other people around me are experiencing, in response to events such as this, in response to legislation, in response to mass hysteria surrounding fucking bathroom usage, What can I do to ease my nerves and to ease that of the people around me? Because we battle with so much. A lot of us have higher rates of suicide ideation, of suicide attempts, of accomplishing of suicide, of low self-esteem, of fear. We go, and it causes so much psychological, weight to constantly be in a space where you're nervous all the time because you're constantly being tested and poked and prodded. And I'm just constantly thinking, what can I do to help that somebody who just mirrors me in so many ways? What can I do? And so that is the goal that I hope to accomplish with doing this project Transfer Live, because I think what I find most amongst the people who disagree with my lifestyle, as if they themselves don't have a fucking lifestyle that maybe I don't agree with, but for some reason it's just assumed that because they fit the narrative of the norm, they are the ones who rightfully so hold the power, and so whatever they decide should dictate my norms and my values. Fuck you and fuck off. And I say that in the most politest of manners, because I still welcome you, I still accept you, I would still hold a dinner and host you at my table, okay? But you a bitch, boo-boo. Bye. What I find most often with people who say these things, like, yeah, you know, trans people are purpose, they are trying to look at us in the bathrooms and blah blah, it's just they've been lied to for so long. Just like some of us who are transgender have been lied to. We believe certain things about the trans community and ourselves which don't exactly mirror who and what we are. But we've been sold a mentality for so long. We've been industrialized, we've been imprisoned, we've been indoctrinated, we've had so much tampered with in our hearts and in our minds that sometimes it's difficult for us to breach the surface to get to what's really going on below and realize, yo, I'm made of the same material matter. I am made of 99.9999% the same shit. So really, what makes someone else any different, any less, any more than me and what I am? You know, so for everything that another person is capable of, so too am I. You know, and some people are fearful of that realization that, yo, I can be them. I don't want to be that. So I'm gonna try and create as much that dichotomy and difference between us as I possibly can. And if I can use my speech to come between us, I would do that. So, you know, and just like there's someone who on my friends list, I am so proud of them, and also kind of scary because I've never seen anything like it, where our meeting happened because of a conversation about Janet Mock, I believe. I think it was an article that Janet Mock had written in response to Bell Hooks. And there was a discussion about gender identity and the right of Janet Mock to claim feminism and to speak on behalf of any woman because of her transition. And I didn't challenge the poster's ideas. I just said, okay, get this right and get that right. You know, I was just like, if you're going to make a statement, just be accurate. As disagreeable as it is to me, at least be accurate in the details that you're proposing. So that's all I said, and I didn't really engage in the discussion and the debate, but I did have a conversation with that person, and she changed her mind. She changed her mind throughout the course of our discussion. And I made sure to be mindful of my limits and be mindful of my triggers, and to say, if this conversation is going away that I just cannot, you know, continue, then I'm going to speak that, and I'm also going to end the conversation on that note. And they, at a time, were saying very harmful things. They were making very harmful accusations and drawing harmful conclusions and saying things that literally were from the media. You know, it came from the media. It came from propaganda. It came from, you know, people wanting to laugh at us, people who want to harm us, people who don't want to see us be what we are, which is beautiful. And during the course of the conversation, she eventually had a change of heart. She welcomed someone back into her life who was transgender and into the life of her children. She changed her thinking. She changed the narrative that she spoke and responded to. She changed the way she navigated spaces with her family and friends. And this was just over the course of like 2 or 3 days. And when she came back to me and told me she had reunited her child with their God, who had now become their godfather, or G, as the child decided to call them, when she told me that and was telling me all this progress she had been making, and, you know, the her standing up for her LGBT friends and not saying the insistent things that she was saying, even as questions, even cloaked in ignorance. You know, she had really changed so much about her thinking and her mind and her way of approaching the topic, that when she told me she had done all that over the course of basically like 3 days, I started crying. I started fucking crying because that wasn't my intention. I literally engaged with this person to just talk about what they thought. Why did they think what they thought? You know, and they could say freely what they felt and what they thought and what they believed. And I didn't say that they were wrong. I didn't say that, I didn't call them names. I just said that that thinking is harmful. Could you imagine someone you love hearing you say that? Could you imagine someone you love saying that about you simply because they don't understand? And in their attempts of understanding, they are actually being extremely judgmental. And I just really just held up a mirror and gave perspective of herself. And who knows what else I was doing? She might say something different, but that was my belief in what I was doing. And for it to do all of that, where she basically changed the course of her child's life, even by welcoming someone back into the child life that they absolutely loved and adored, and cried so many nights because they missed them. And yet she was maintaining this space because she didn't agree with their lifestyle, but she was able to reconcile that. And she allowed the child to do all the talking and discussing and understanding that she thought she was going to have to do, because everyone has that question, oh, how do I tell my child this? How do I, blah, blah, blah. But she let her child do the understanding and do the thinking. When she shared that with me, like I said, I just broke down in tears. And I just didn't really know how to comprehend having that type of power to, build a bridge in someone else's life and to actually touch the next generation, her child's life, to give back her godfather and to change the course of her life in that way. I was not planning any of that, just from having a conversation. And I forgot why I initiated this, but it was just to say that, like, I've been confronting people, not viewing them as an enemy, not viewing them as, not really judging them, just seeing what they're thinking and exploring their thoughts and allowing them the space to say what they feel and actually talk to a real, live trans person who's not offended by what they say. Now, some stuff is offensive and some stuff I do get offended by, but I'm not overly receiving of the judgment of what they say. And for them to have that experience, I think it also helps us to gain acknowledgement and to gain their awareness without the judgment. And so that's why I'm doing Trans Real Life, because people need to be reminded that, yes, I'm trans, but I'm real and I'm alive. I'm living. I'm an organic substance. I am a human being. I am sentient. I am intelligent. Sometimes I lack, good choices, but I'm a human being and I'm trying. And again, this is Trans Real and Live. So connect to it, get into it, and really learn to get into different mentalities as opposed to staying locked in a box of your fears and aggressions and worries. So that's what it is for me. It's coming out that box, coming out that fear, coming off that worry, and just really saying, like, hey, I'm here. What's good? What's good? So thank you for watching. This is episode 2, because although I have not yet engaged in the first one, which will be Pray for Orlando, in which we will connect. That is the first one, which I had scheduled. So this is part 2. So we're gonna keep it real. We're gonna keep it live. Thank you for watching, and I hope to continue to engage in discussions with you. So I am gonna be here. You can hit me up on Twitter, Trans Real Live. You can even hit me on Twitter on my personal page, Hey Zay. And just in general, find me. I'm here. I'm open to you. Peace.